Hey guys, in this video I want to talk about how I felt Rogue did in the Karazhan raid testing on the classic TBC Beta, and I also wanted to just go through how it did in terms of the damage numbers as well. So I'll first say that I was a little bit surprised at how well I was doing in Karazhan, and I want to be clear that this is not like I did not put together a team of amazing raiders. I pugged a group in the beta, didn't know anyone going in, and just 9 random people in a pug. So I'm by no means trying to tell you that on Prince that you should expect in your guild with equally skilled players that a rogue is going to beat out a hunter or a warlock. I'm just saying through all of these boss fights in my runs, this is what I got. And again, maybe not everyone was trying as hard as I was trying. I was trying to do as much damage as I could. I was using like haste potions that you could get off of the vendors. It's possible that some of the people in the group for the raid testing didn't fully set up their character quite like they would want, or weren't able to find all the consumes and everything. So there is definitely potential that other things could have been causing a difference in numbers. But the point still remains that with a lot of different people cycling through, you can see by the end on Nightbane we had a lot, like basically every DPS dealer was different than from the initial starting group. So I was able to test against a lot of different players and a lot of different specs, and especially like a lot of different hunters, a lot of different warlocks. And Rogue was feeling good. I would say I felt more useful on Trash than I would have expected. I was expecting to feel basically useless on Trash if I did not have Blade Flurry up. In terms of the damage component, I felt like I was doing a lot more damage when there was only like 1 or 2 mobs than I would have expected. So if there was 1 or 2 mobs being pulled, I felt like I was always, basically at the top. And if there were 5 or 6 mobs, I would generally be tied with the warlocks and mages if I had Blade Flurry up. And if I did not have Blade Flurry up, I'd be way down the list. So essentially, on the big packs, I felt like I needed Blade Flurry to keep up. On the cleave packs, I felt like I was way ahead of everyone else if I had Blade Flurry. And, on the cleave packs without Blade Flurry, it was all right. And especially if there's 1 to 2 mobs, I felt like I was doing, pretty good on the Trash. But the most important thing about the Trash is that a lot of it can be stunned. And this is not something that I really remembered, but a lot of the mobs can be stunned. And as a rogue pressing cheap shot into a 4 to 5 point kidney, I mean, you can lock down a mob for 9 or 10 seconds. And that can really, you can kill the mobs in that amount of time. So it can save your healer's mana, save your tanks the worry of getting one shot or anything. Like most I'll be, just completely honest. Most of the mobs that can one shot your tank are immune to stun. But there are some dangerous and annoying mobs that you can stun. And I felt like I had a little more utility than I was expecting on Trash. And I'll say, at least for Karazhan, the Trash felt a lot harder than the bosses. I'd say pretty much every boss was a cakewalk, keeping in mind I got Romeo and Juliet on Opera, which is the easiest. But yeah, basically every boss felt like an absolute cakewalk, except for Netherspite and Nightbane. I think, I one-shot every single boss with, again, a random pug of 10 people, except Curator when it was bugged. They changed Curator. They already fixed it. He was spawning too many sparks. And basically TLDR, a bunch of AoE damage was going out. It was 3 times as much, and then it got fixed. So besides that, we wiped once on Prince because an Infernal landed on top of our tank. I think that was just bad luck. We got it the second time. I think we wiped on Shade too, and now that I think of it. Yeah, we wiped on Shade as well because somebody moved with Flame Wreath. But the bosses felt pretty easy up until Netherspite and Nightbane. So I think it's a pretty big deal that on Trash, rogues can make the run feel a lot smoother with CC like stuns and kidney shots. And there are other classes that can do that, like a Feral Druid can bash every 5 minutes or every several minutes. I forget bash's cooldown. And you got a Paladin that can Hodge every minute. So there are other classes that can stun, but rogues are certainly the best at it. Now, moving past just kind of the numbers, and lastly, I wanted to take a minute just to talk about kind of how I view melee in TBC, some of the misconceptions I'm hearing. right? So there's a lot of slander going around about rogues being terrible, rogues not being good. And I just want to make, clear up some things. So I think when a lot of people hear that rogues aren't very good or they're one of the least desired classes, they start thinking that rogue is a meme spec, or they think back to classic, and they think about how little damage something like a rep paladin would do, or how little damage an enhancement shaman would do. And that is just blatantly not true, right? Rogues are not meme specs. When you look at them in terms of damage, they can keep up if they have a good fight, especially on the fights that are melee friendly, right? They can pop off, and especially if a rogue is using their cooldowns right, specifically if there's blade flurry, cleave opportunities, there's a lot of opportunities for rogues to really pop off when it comes to damage. And especially if you're a good rogue player, there's a lot of little things you can do, like Cloak of Shadows to avoid mechanics. There's a lot of room for you to play, and if you are a good player, you are going to be seeing as a rogue that you're going to be able to do good damage. And again, not every single group is going to be representative of like a full speed run, everyone bis, everything like that. Like as a rogue, you're going to find that in a lot of dungeons, you're going to do top damage, because that's just how the game works, right? If you're playing well, if you've got decent gear, you're going to do well in dungeons, right? And so the idea that, people wouldn't invite you just because you're a rogue, and it's just nonsense. When you look at the difference in terms of damage, it's nothing compared to classic, and people have it ingrained in their mind that they're choosing when they're forming a group between a meme spec of a rogue and a warlock that's going to carry them and absolutely destroy everything. And sure, I'm not going to deny it. Warlocks can do some crazy damage with Seed of Corruption and can certainly make a run go a lot smoother. But again, I'm taking the more geared rogue every day of the week over a warlock, and I'm taking the rogue that I know is not going to make a ton of mistakes in the fight, rather than even just a random player. And that's just how World of Warcraft works. That's how it's always worked. And people seem to be caught up in the fact that a class can do a certain percentage more damage than a rogue, and that automatically means that they have no place. And that's just not how the game works. That's not how you're going to experience the game. And I think a lot of people, when they're watching videos, especially from people that play on buffed private servers, especially from people that have been playing the game super competitively out of necessity, because these buffed private servers force you to min-max, because if you don't min-max, you literally can't kill the bosses because they're buffed. It's not the game as we are going to play it. And I think a lot of people have gotten caught up in all this, and they forget that 99% of guilds are going to run one rogue at least. And a ton of guilds are going to be running 2 to 3. And that's just how it's going to work. And people seem to be like envisioning a guild speedrunning Karazhan going for a world record time, and that group might not run a rogue. But you're going to have rogues, and even top guilds are probably going to play rogues in the later stages of the game. We'll see. Potentially not when they're speedrunning. Who knows? I would expect them to run at least one. But again, that's not something you're going to hear when people are just repeating, rogue bad, rogue worst class. So just keep that in mind, that you're not a meme spec. You have the chance to be top damage every dungeon group you go to. You have a chance to be top damage on a lot of raid fights if it's a good fight for you, and if you use your cooldowns right, and if you play well. And that's just how it's always gonna be. That's how it always was, except for classic meme specs, right? Or specific expansions where a class is just atrocious. But in TBC, that's not going to be the case, and you're going to be able to do really good damage, especially if you've got a group that has Battle Shout, if you've got a Shaman, if you've got a lot of things. There's a lot of different support elements that you can get in your group that are going to help your damage, and having things to increase your damage, somebody's got to take them, right? That's another thing that everybody forgets. You can have your shaman that gives increased physical damage to the group. You can have an arms warrior that applies a debuff to the boss that increases physical damage taken. You can have all these things, but it doesn't matter if you've got Wind Fury totem down, all those factors, if nobody's there to use it. You need a rogue in those groups to use those buffs, or else all that added utility goes to waste, right? So with that said, just guys, if you like to play rogue, enjoy playing rogue. It's kind of discouraging seeing the amount of people that are like planning on re-rolling because they're worried about viability and all this. Just play rogue, enjoy rogue. It'll be great. You can do top damage. If you're a good player, you're going to be more desirable than a warlock, more desirable than a hunter that doesn't know what they're doing. And that's how World of Warcraft works. So thanks for watching, guys. And let me know what you guys think about rogue. If you did any of the raid testing, tell me how you thought rogue was, and I'll talk to you guys next time.